A squirrely situation. I am not op. Original post by UTV Outfits in R, Home Improvement and NBSP. Squirrel is now desperately trapped in our ceiling. November 14, 2022. Squirrel is now desperately trapped in our ceiling. Over the last week, my wife and I have heard a ton of scratching and rattling coming from the ceiling above our bed. We had an exterminator come by, who said that it was likely squirrels, not mice, and pointed out a lift in our roof where the shingles meet the gutter. Basically exactly where the noises were coming from. He recommended getting the hole fixed. Flash forward to this morning and I have a roofing company come by who say they deal with this sort of thing all the time. They get up there, open up the hole a bit to make the repair, and two squirrels immediately run out from the rafters. They claim to have dropped some spray or a chemical bomb of some kind to scare out any stragglers. Then they went about their business fixing the hole along with some other vulnerabilities on the roof while they were up there. My wife gets home just now and is sitting up in our bed. And, of course, she hears the same pitter-patter as before, only seemingly more hastened and panicked. Looks like one of these guys got caught behind enemy lines. I called the roofers back and got a voicemail. The thing is, the hole is 3 stories up and totally inaccessible without a roofing ladder. And now I'm just trying to figure out if it's better to try to convince these guys to come back and undo their work to let the poor thing out, or if I should try to figure out another way to liberate it, like cutting through the ceiling in our bedroom or floor on the top floor in some way. I feel like a jerk cause everything I've read about this sort of situation here and elsewhere warns about making sure you don't trap any stragglers, and I emphasized this a bunch to the roofers, who are ultimately not exterminators. Not expecting any miracle solution here, but any advice or thoughts would be appreciated. Update. Roofer called me back. He is coming back tomorrow to see what he can do. At least he feels some responsibility here, so there's that. Update 2. Found a very reputable humane animal control company nearby. I live in a big US city and these guys seem to be people for this. And they are scheduled for tomorrow. When the roofer comes back today, I'm going to see about boring a small hole where the previous access point was, to give the squirrel a chance to get free and like not die in my ceiling. Then when the animal control company comes, we can go about setting a proper trap, one-way door, etc. It'll be an expensive set of mistakes on my part. But hey, at least the economy isn't tanking with record inflation or anything like that. And NBSP. Update November 17, 2022. Squirrel is now desperately trapped in our ceiling. The shocking conclusion. Hey all, wanted to give an update to this post from a few days ago. Really appreciate everyone's suggestions and thoughtful replies. The TLDR of that first post is basically that we had some squirrels hanging in the space between our bedroom ceiling and attic floor, and had their access hole repaired by some roofers. But despite our best efforts, there was a straggler who got trapped on the other side of the new seal. Per everyone's suggestion, I scheduled a visit from a wildlife specialist company. Shout out to ABC Humane Wildlife in the Chicagoland area for today. In the interim, the squirrel, seeking a new means of egress, wound up falling from that floor in between some studs and ended up trapped in an interior wall on my lower level. My large but ultimately useless cat stood sentry as the squirrel's noises became increasingly desperate and unsettling. I swear, if I didn't know it was a squirrel, I would think it was a boar or wounded hyena of some sort trapped in there. What was especially troubling is at this point the squirrel had been stuck inside for over 2 days, and presumably would die at some point. Fortunately, the wildlife specialist made it in time, and 2 modest holes in the drywall later, he was able to reach in and remove the squirrel. In a final plot twist, the squirrel broke free of his grip, dashed into my kitchen, where the pro had to recapture him using a large net like a dog catcher in an old-timey cartoon. This squirrel was an absolute unit. Like a small raccoon-sized squirrel, I was given the choice to let it free on my property or to have it euthanized. But by this point, despite the sleep loss and annoyance and holes in the walls and who knows what else in the joists and studs, I had to respect this king's tenacity. I gave the squirrel a thumbs up in the fashion of a Roman emperor overlooking a gladiatorial melee, letting him run free into my yard with his squirrel friends. Will he back and attempt to re-enter my ceiling? It's possible, but if so, I hope he does so as a friend. And NBSP, reminder I am not the original poster. I gave the squirrel a thumbs up in the fashion of a Roman emperor overlooking a gladiatorial melee, letting him run free into my yard with his squirrel friends. Oop is a good person. There's one more update to the tale. Update. Wow. Thanks everyone for reading this with such acceptance and mirth. And special shout out to my dad who found this, texted it to me, and now knows my Reddit handle. I guess. For those warning me about how he's just going to get back in. I definitely get it. I just would emphasize that the roofers sealed the previous gap with a steel edge so they aren't get back in that way. And also repaired a few other vulnerabilities while they were up there. For good measure, I installed a motion sensor camera in that area and am having a tree service come tomorrow to see about cutting back some of the tree growth to make it more difficult for them to rappel to up to that level. The strangest thing of all though is that this whole neighborhood is just lousy with squirrels. We see them jumping around all the time in all sections of the yards, sidewalks, and streets. I know because I have a cat and small child, both of whom love to stare at the squirrels in the trees with equal curiosity and wonder. Today, I've been in and out of the house a good amount, and have been monitoring the perimeter to check for any new efforts at infiltration. Friends, I am here to tell you I have not seen a single squirrel outside today. It's as though the local squirrel organization decided to have an off-site to team build and discuss their next moves. I hope to be able to discuss their findings and reflections in the spirit of reconciliation when we all come together for a Thanksgiving feast next week. Disappointed he didn't take a picture of the chonker. We had this happen during lockdown when pest control companies weren't allowed inside. Amateur solution was to remove a small piece of baseboard, make a hole in the drywall, and then cover it with a box baited with peanut butter. Shockingly it worked. I would be horrified if someone asked me if I wanted the poor creature euthanized. No! Exclamation mark. Given the opportunity, that squirrel would have killed you and your whole family. You are lucky to be alive. Squirreltruth.com. Glad that the squirrel got to live. I hate it when animals have to suffer for daring to make their homes too close to inside of our homes. We took over their environment and destroyed their natural habitats. Where else are they supposed to go? Makes me think of the Allstate Mayhem commercial with raccoons in the attic. I love the last line. Will he back and attempt to re-enter my ceiling? It's possible, but if so, I hope he does so as a friend. As a friend. Squirrels are destructive little bastards once they're in your house. They're the cause of 20% of all house fires in the US. From chewing on wires. Found out how my sweet grandma was dealing with squirrels in her attic when we had to clean out her house. She had a big bucket of antifreeze with a piece of wood balancing over it with some peanut butter on the end. I'm sure you can figure out how it worked. And boy did it. I've dealt with them in my own home, but I just bought a live trap from Home Depot. patched up the holes and gave the prisoners a ride far enough from my place that they are someone else's problem. Reminds me of the squirrel that got in our ceiling walls years ago. I was in high school and kept a very junky room. Would often just shove stuff in the closet just to get it off the floor. Then more stuff would crowd the floor. Then rinse and repeat. One day, I heard scratching and rattling noises coming from inside my closet. I thought I was going insane and was just hearing things. Then later that night, I heard it again and my mind began to wonder what it was. I continued to hear that noise at least once daily, mostly midday, and wonder what was causing it. The idea I settled on was that because my room and closet have been a mess for so long, I must have attracted a rat. I didn't want to tell my parents because I didn't want to lecture about my room and this being my fault. With absolutely no knowledge of how people get rid of rats, I decided to buckle down and clean my room because the rat would magically disappear after that. Right? I was a sheltered, middle-class, book-smart kid. Don't judge me. It took a few days to get the room fully clean, my room and closet. Once it was done, I thought, good. The rat has no mess to hide in and will go somewhere else. I know. I was an idiot. I didn't hear the noise for at least a day and thought it worked. Then, I heard it again and was mortified. Why was the rat still here torturing me? I heard it consistently one afternoon and was just fed up and decided that I'm going to expose it. In a Scooby-Doo, aha moment. Not sure what I was thinking or what I would have done. But I can't stress to you how stupid I was at this time. The sound was coming from the back corner of my closet shelf. I started pulling out the books, board games, and puzzles that were stored back there, dreading facing this rat head on. So now, my closet shelf has been cleared out. I am still hearing the noise, but staring at nothing but a bright blue wall with no holes, marks or scratches. I started to wonder if I actually was going insane. Feeling defeated, I finally decided to go get my dad and just tell him what I was hearing in the closet. So it wasn't a rat. Shocker, right? A squirrel got into our attic when the door was left open after some insulation work was done up there. I still wonder how no one else had ever heard it. Like, did it just make a nest in the wall behind my closet and not bother anyone else? Anyways, there's my long, pointless story about having a squirrel in my wall and thinking it was a rat there to torture me because my room was a mess. We had some squirrels chew through our siding and get into our attic a few years ago. Drove my cat bonkers listening while they ran back and forth across the ceiling. When we had someone come to get them out and repair the siding, I warned him the squirrels around here were real jerks. He just laughed until one of them ran up, locked eyes with him, pushed his cup of coffee off the porch railing, then parkoured up the ladder he was using. The guy just stood there in shock for a minute before turning to me and saying, "I've never said this about a squirrel before, but that thing's an asshole." My favorite update. OMG, Oop needs to be a professional writer. This is hilarious. I had flying squirrels nest in my ceiling. First time living in a house with a cathedral ceiling, and it took me a very long time to figure out that it wasn't cute squirrels playing on my roof. It took about a month and a half to remove 14 flying squirrels. I will forever be grateful to my pest control guy, lol. Could be worse. The screen on top of our house's vent pipe is loose. Birds keep falling down it. Takes about 4 days. As someone who had 3 opossums stuck in the attic after repairing a hole in the soffit, I completely sympathize with Oop. We got 2 out the first night, but the third, informed by the misadventures of his fellows, refused to enter the trap for any type of food. It took him a week to get thirsty enough to go in for some water. What a wholesome story.
Lamau. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.